Could I have fixed it before it came to this? Could I have acted differently? Could I have made another choice? Could I have tried harder? The situation has been untenable for too long. You have given too much of yourself just to keep things barely afloat. You have spoken. You have shared what you need. You have shared how you see things, and nothing's changed. And so you've made a decision. You've walked away. You ended your marriage. You've walked away from your job. Different scenarios, but ultimately you have irrevocably altered the relationship because you felt you had no other choice. And still you lie awake at night and you ask yourself, could I have acted differently? Could I have made another choice? If I'd stayed, if I'd tried harder, if I'd done something else, could I have made it work? Could I have fixed it before it broke? Maybe you're thinking, is there a way back and a repair to be done? This is The Feminine Duality, a podcast about midlife, hormones, burnout, and how to manage all the crazy demands we have put upon us without drowning in overwhelm. I'm Tova, and I'm so happy you're here. Whether you're listening on Apple or watching on Spotify or YouTube, please make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, review, a comment, and most importantly, share your favorite episodes with your favorite people. A quick note before we get into today's episode. Today I will talk about alcoholism and losing a parent. So if those are topics that feel particularly raw for you, please take extra care of yourself as you're listening. We make choices in life, and we don't make these choices lightly. We've spent a lot of time debating with ourselves, weighing up pros and cons, and ultimately made a decision. And we know, pragmatically, practically, we know the decision is right. We know that ultimately that was the safest, sanest, kindest way to go. But we still second guess ourselves, and we still feel guilt. Why is that? Well, you are a caring person. You're a good person, and you carry responsibilities. And as we've discussed before, you carry a lot of responsibilities that may not even be yours to carry, right? But because you carry these responsibilities, you question your own choices, and you don't quite trust yourself to make the right decision, even when you do know that it is the right decision. Or sometimes you know it is the wrong decision, but the only one you could have made. When I was pregnant with Alice, my dad got diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver and end-stage liver failure. And the cause of this was alcohol. It's as simple as that. My dad had drunk alcohol every day for 40 years. In the end, his liver could no longer process the toxins he put in his body. He got more and more sick. He was in and out of hospital. One time he collapsed out on the street as he was out walking the dog, and a neighbour of his picked him up, called the ambulance, took care of the dog while my dad was in hospital. Another time he collapsed in his home, hit his head, passed out, had nobody there. Nobody was expecting to turn up and check in on him. He was on his own. He eventually woke up and eventually managed to call an ambulance, but that one could have gone very differently from how it did. He lived alone in Sweden. I lived here in England with a newborn baby, a disabled child, a job, a mortgage, a husband, responsibilities coming out of my ears. I did not move back to Sweden to look after my dad. I put things in place as much as I was able to from here. He refused to get help. He refused to move into a home. There were so many things that I ultimately did not have the power to do. But as much as I could, I helped him. And he died from cirrhosis of the liver just after he'd turned 70 years old. That's not an age. He could have had easily 10, 15 more good years in him. But he drank every day for 40 years, and his liver could not keep up with it. I sometimes question my choices. I sometimes wonder, could I have acted differently? Could I have made changes? Not just when he was in end-stage liver failure, because by then it really is too late. But I knew he had a problem 20 years ago. I knew he had a problem 30 years ago. Is there anything that I could have done as a young adult child of an addict that would have helped him and changed the trajectory of his life and the ultimate outcome of it? And even at the end of it, even at the end stage liver failure, should I have given up my life here and moved back to Sweden to look after my dying dad? Could I have made sure that somebody was checking in on him every day so that when he did collapse on his own in his flat, he was found? Could I have been the one there to get help straight away when it happened? Could I have chosen differently? Could I have fixed this? And why does my brain sometimes like to tell me that I'm responsible for my father's choices? Because I'm not. I'm responsible for my choices. I'm responsible for choosing to be home and breastfeed my baby. I'm responsible for choosing to look after my disabled child. I'm responsible for making sure that I can pay my mortgage and keep a roof over my family's head. That's what I'm responsible for. I am not the one who made my dad drink. I mean, I'm not saying that I wasn't an obnoxious child, but not enough to drive my parents to drink, right? And I can see now, I know now, that my dad was self-medicating. My father was an undiagnosed neurodivergent. He was definitely on the autistic spectrum, no doubt about it. As I learn more nowadays, I'm thinking there may also have been a slight touch of ADHD in the picture as well. He was an interesting character. Incredibly talented, very intelligent, made some very odd choices in his life, and perhaps if diagnoses were available for his level of neurodivergence in the 1950s, his life would have looked very different. But it wasn't. You didn't prescribe Ritalin in Sweden in 1951. Certainly not for the young child who, after having broken his fingers, looked at his hand and wrist in a cast and went, "Great, this is stabilized. Now's the time for me to learn to play the violin." He was 4. He learned to play the violin. It actually worked. He not only learned to play the violin, he went on to build a violin. He also built a rebec, a hurdy-gurdy, a harp, a bagpipe, and he could play all of them. He could play all of the 60 plus instruments that he at one point owned, and he could play them well. Even at the end of his life, he could play all of these instruments fantastically. And he still composed music, and he still wrote books, but he could not see that he needed help and he should have somebody making sure that he was safe. Creative stuff, I can do that. Practical stuff, nah. My dad was self-medicating with alcohol. Of course he drank his entire adult life. How else was he supposed to navigate in a world that he did not fully understand and that most definitely did not understand him? And of course, I wish the situation could have been different. Of course, I wish that my dad was still alive today and well and able to share his beautiful gifts with his grandchildren. I look at my oldest daughter and her love of music. My dad definitely had the mentality to sit and simply play and sing for 5 hours straight. Elin would have loved that. Live music, a person in the room, singing to her. That girl would be sitting there just basking and glorying in this. Of course I wish that. My intelligent, quite possibly neurodivergent younger daughter, I mean, if she could have had her choice of 65 instruments, she would probably learn to play at least 10 of them and play them well, right? Especially if she had a teacher as patient as my father, who really would go over it again and again and think of different ways to hold her interest when her mind tries to wander off on other things. My best friend has a combined diagnosis of autism and ADHD. She also has quite severe dyscalculia. Numbers have never ever made sense to her. My dad was the only one who was ever able to explain maths to her so she could understand them. Because my dad could think around corners and in corkscrews and just in the most random ways. My dad was not linear. My dad was brilliant. And his neurodivergent mind is what made him that brilliant. But his neurodivergent mind was also what made him make choices in his life that ultimately turned out to be very destructive. Yes, I feel guilt. And yes, I second guess myself. Because I wish it could have been different. Not because I don't believe in the choices that I made, but because I wish I could have made other choices. Because I'm not a horrible person. A horrible person wouldn't care, and I care. I care deeply. And I am sure it is the same for you. When you have made a choice that protects you, a choice that is the kindest possible for the most amount of involved parties as possible. A choice that is pragmatic, a choice that is logical, but on an emotional level you wish you could have chosen differently. You have spent years working in that school, gradually, slowly, burning yourself out. Even though the environment is not good for you, it's not good for the kids, but you care for the kids, you care for your class, and you stay and you try and protect them. You're working with the school management, you're working with your colleagues, you're trying so hard to make a change. And ultimately, there is nothing more you can do, and you walk away. You don't walk away because you're a bad person. You walk away because staying will break you. The same thing with a marriage that ends. You don't end the marriage out of spite. You don't throw 20 plus years in the bin for no good reason. You have probably spent the last 5 at least knowing it's broken, trying to fix it, and speaking to your partner, trying to get across what isn't working, why it isn't working. The language is about we. What can we do? How can we fix this? What changes can we make? And in the end, it just doesn't work anymore. And you know it's not good for the kids to have 2 homes and a co-parenting situation, or even a solo parenting situation. But you also know that it's definitely not good for the kids to stay in that toxic environment that they're in. You make the choice and you wonder, could I have chosen differently? Could I have fixed things? How many years back in time can I go and what action can I make that would have caused a completely different outcome? So the question I want you to try and sit with for a little while is this. Who are you actually responsible for? Who is the one person whose actions you can control, whose decision you have an impact on? Who is it? Your sister is hell-bent on sabotaging her own life. How many times can you pick up her pieces? How many times can you bail her out? How long can you stand there and watch her self-destructive behavior before you turn around and say, I'm done, I'm out? You know why she's acting the way she's acting. You grew up in the same family. You carry the same trauma. You understand her better than anybody. But you chose to deal with it differently. You have your own wounds, but you're still making different choices. But you absolutely understand her. And so you feel responsible. And you think that maybe you could fix it for her. I mean, you sort of fixed it for yourself, right? Debatable, but yeah, you're doing good. Trust me on this, you're doing really good. If you have these feelings, you're doing good. But who are you actually responsible for? You're not responsible for her. You didn't cause the situation and you cannot control her actions. You can control yours and you can protect yourself by stepping away. And you're not a bad person for making that choice. You can see and understand the pressure and stresses your husband is under, but you are under pressure and stresses as well. And if these are causing such severe friction that the relationship no longer works, the only person you're responsible for is you. The only person whose actions you control is you. And you're not going to throw away that marriage easily. Of course you're not. You're not going to suddenly stop caring about the man you've spent the last 20 years with. You're just making a choice to care a little bit more for yourself. And that does not make you a bad person. I think I know why my dad drank. I understand it. I don't blame him. I'm not responsible for it. Of course I wish I could have made him stop drinking. But that wasn't my responsibility. And that guilt you're feeling it because you are not a horrible person. You wouldn't feel guilty if you were a horrible person. So take that beautiful empathy of yours and give a little bit of it to yourself. You acted the best you could in that circumstance. And the fact that you still care is a beautiful thing. You made a choice that you needed to make. It is as simple as that. You made a choice you needed to make. And trust me when I say this, the people around you, that person you care for, the reason that you feel this guilt, the reason you're second guessing yourself, they know that they're making a choice. Deep down. They are probably in denial about it. My dad knew perfectly well that he had a problem with alcohol. He knew he was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. He knew that unless he stopped drinking completely immediately, it would only speed up his death. He chose to keep drinking. And he had some fantastic stories about how none of this actually applied to him. As I say, yeah, he was in denial. Complete and utter denial, but he knew. Your husband knows how unhappy you are. He knows how stressed out you are. He knows that he needs to make a change. But he doesn't want to face up to his responsibility in the situation. He doesn't want to accept that he has choices to make. It's easier not to make the choice. It's easier to put the blinkers on, put your hands over your ears and go, la, 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 I don't want to watch this, right? He doesn't want the relationship to end. But for whatever reason, he's scared to take that really deep look at himself and go, yeah, I've got some work to do here. And your sister knows. Your sister knows that she has picked up and put on that victim hoodie. And it's a comfortable hoodie. It's soft. It's warm. You can put the hood up and you can pull the drawstrings tight, and you cannot have to look at the world and see that you are responsible. The victim hoodie is a lovely garment. She is well aware that she's wearing it. She doesn't want to take it off, because taking it off means being cold and vulnerable and having to face up to the fact that you have to go and make a change. And why would she need to when you're always there to pick up the pieces for her? Except that you've chosen not to. You know that you had to choose yourself, and still you lie awake at night and question your choices. Because you are a caring, beautiful human being, and you're dealing with a really difficult situation. I can't tell you how to stop feeling this guilt. To be perfectly honest, I don't even think you should try. Because the guilt you're feeling is proof of what a beautiful person you are. But perhaps, if you're able to believe that last statement, it might help you a little bit when it comes to second-guessing yourself. As I let my father play us out on his harp, I want to thank you for being here with me today, and for every single episode that you have listened to. The Feminine Duality is a very new podcast, and I am still working so hard to make it reach as many people as possible, and this is where you can help me. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a 5-star rating and a review by going to the show and scrolling all the way to the bottom where you have the stars and the review field. On Spotify, you can rate the podcast by clicking on the 3 dots that are at the top of the show. You can also leave comments in Spotify and on YouTube, and the more you engage with this podcast, the more it gets pushed out to other people. And obviously you can share your favorite episodes on your social media so it reaches your network, your friends. And I am so grateful for every single one of you who will do even just one of these things. And if today's episode made you think, made you feel, and you want to share it with me but in a more private setting than the comment field, my email address is tova@thefeminineduality.com. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'll see you again soon.